Well, hello and welcome to the Heart of Leadership with yours truly, Margaret Burkle. And with me today is the enigmatic Liam Murphy, the CEO and president of Fireball Equipment. Liam is the CEO and co-founder or co-owner of Fireball Equipment, a specialized engineering, contracting, and manufacturing firm based out of Edmonton, Alberta. More importantly, though, Liam is a people centered leader who injects enthusiasm, care, and compassion into each and every interaction with each one of Fireball's 100 staff. And that is not just marketing. We know that because I know a lot of his staff members. Liam has been married for 12 years and to the beautiful Rosa May and is a proud and have to say, very involved and present father of 4 children under the age of 10. Liam was recently recognized as the Finalist by EY Entrepreneur of the Year 2024 in the Prairies, and he was also recognized as one of the Business Leaders of the Year by the Business of Edmonton magazine last night. His recognition is a testament to his unwavering dedication of his visionary leadership. So with that, welcome, Liam. I am so glad you could join me for a conversation about people-centered leadership today. And I'm going to just jump in with the big question.
All right.
Fireball is one of the most exemplary people-centered company cultures, probably in North America.
Take it.
What was that? You should, absolutely. What was that pivotal moment in your leadership career that made a focus on people a priority as a leader?
Yeah, I think the journey of my leadership in this business and as it's developed goes back to a few kind of key moments. Going back to 2018, 2019, our business was going through some pretty hard times. We had put in another leader in the organization. So my father, who started the business, we hired a general manager who was a hardworking, great person in many ways, but I think probably maybe not the best values fit for our organization, and prioritized processes over people primarily. And I think that just kind of the departure from where the business was built just felt really unfamiliar, and so things kind of amounted to some pretty tough times in the end. So with some it's a little bit of a power struggle at the top of the organization and some confusion around the values of the organization, it came to a point where in 2019 we had our biggest revenue year ever, and we lost a whole bunch of money. And you'd think that those tough moments in time that maybe you're losing money, but it's at least you have a great culture, or at least you have great quality. But I'd say generally these things, there's a pretty vicious cycle when you're prioritizing processes over people. Then people are feeling disengaged, and they are not staying and working for you and retaining the employees as best as you have in the past. So then you have newer people and who don't have as much experience, who don't do as good of a job for a customer, who have for lower quality, who it's just a little bit of a vicious cycle. And so, there's some moments in time there where we realized that we really needed to make a hard pivot. And that was kind of the circumstances to lay the foundation for when I stepped into the president and CEO role of the business. And kind of the whole hypothesis there was we need to bring it back to a values-based business, into a people-centered business. And one kind of key phrase that has been the mantra and the kind of our marching orders for since then was that the customer experience will never exceed the employee experience. And that's something that I've truly, I feel like I've probably quoted that 600 times, but it couldn't be more true. So there's not a lot of complexity around it. It's just so simple around take care of your people and they'll take care of your clients. And so that's what we did. So along with our wonderful, talented HR manager, Andrea, we just got together and put together a plan on what that was going to look like. And it started with connection with people, and having the not being the faceless, financial focused organization, being a people centered organization with accessible leaders and compassionate leaders. And that's so kind of trickle effect of us wanting to be there for our people and support them and take care of them well. It just starts to build momentum over time. And there's some, I remember some times where I think Andrea and we held a meeting off site where we're thinking like we are in a cultural crisis, like and we put together a plan on how we're going to turn the business around. And also have to recognize that the precariousness of the timing when I took over late in 2019. It was a couple months prior to COVID hitting, and that whole period in time was high stress, and we weren't used to running a business that was financially strained and had the bank calling and had those kind of stresses on top of the pandemic and on top of the cultural challenges. There were some tough times, but the the businesses was in dire enough place that it gave us the mandate and the absolute requirement to get serious about our principles and our values. And it's been a really virtuous growth pattern since then. So in the same sense that that vicious cycle peak shittiness at Fireball occurred previously. Hopefully I can use that language on your podcast to murder, but all right. It's a virtuous cycle when you take care of the people and they take care of the customers, and the customers are happy and they give you more business, and you create more scale and you get more specialization. And like it seems like it's the glue that keeps the whole rocket ship flying. And so yeah, it's been a bit of a journey, but yeah, there's certainly some times where we had to look ourselves pretty hard in the mirror and make some tough decisions, and all kind of based around our people and how we lead them and keep that as the primary focus of the organization.
That is amazing. And it's so brave. I mean, of course, none of us knew what was happening in March
No.
2019 to make a massive cultural change and a big shift in leadership just before the pandemic. So, with this whole people centered shift, you had to bring an entire executive and management team
Yeah.
along with you. How did you swing them to a different focus?
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? It wasn't easy or immediate or overnight. Like I think the place where I started, and I remember early on, like day one when I took the reins as president, I put together a presentation and I just put it all on the table, just in total transparency. Hey, here's the things that I'm going to bring to you as a president and as leader of this organization, and here's the things that I'm not. Like there's a lot of areas that are not my strengths, and I'll be the first to admit those. And just that total transparency and openness with them is something that I don't think has um, they'd been accustomed to over the previous number of years. And that's something where you say, hey, well, clearly like this is the area that we're going to excel and focus on, and these areas that they need to complement us in. And so like the thing that I love doing are I love recruiting and the cultural leadership and injecting the energy and optimism and the customer focus and business development. Those things come naturally to me, but like I am not the best leader on processes and on the repeatability and consistency and some of the discipline, like that integrating function. Like there's room to for help there. And but just being clear to the team on here's what I am and here's what I'm not and here's the direction that we're going. I guess that's the other piece is like just leading with the vision of what we're trying to build and the kind of the purpose of the whole thing. And people came on board, and as you kind of develop that team over time and add people that are aligned to the vision and aligned to the culture that we're trying to build, then it now feel like I'm so blessed with a leadership team in the organization that I'd hold up against any organization anywhere, and that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. That's a big shift. That practice of when you step in as a new leader to just lay it all on the table. It's like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
These are my values, these are my strengths, and this is where you're going to backfill because that's not my thing. Is such a brave and courageous step to take, but it's so incredibly valuable because the team immediately know what they're dealing with. It's sort of it's a best practice that we help people with that are in transition always, and it's
Well,
scary
yeah, and I think
in
that
a
the other
way,
piece
right?
is by being vulnerable as a leader, you kind of give permission to the team to do that as well. Like when we, if it has to start probably at the top, right? And if it doesn't exist there, then everyone's going to have a shield up and put up their defenses. But
Yeah.
if you see at the top that that's the tone, then I think it gives permission and agency for the rest of the leaders to do the same. And so the directors that we have in our organization are having hopefully those same conversations with their managers who are having the same conversations with the frontline staff. And yeah, I think that it, that kind of thing does filter through the organization.
It sets a wonderful tone for it. I mean, I'm not the leader who knows everything. I'm not the super person and flew in to rescue everybody because I'm so talented. Which is such an old paradigm, but it's still alive.
Yeah.
Oh, tell me more about the transition to a people-centered leadership. What was the most difficult part for you?
Yeah. I mean, I guess one of the pieces of, you know, truly being, people first, people centered leader is that like, you wear your heart on your sleeve and you get so emotionally invested in the people and their potential. And I'd say that, as far as sources of pride, like the business that we do is putting in oil change systems and putting in refueling systems. But I mean, that's not what gets people up and makes them feel passionate every single day. Now, like, I think they're pretty cool. My wife rolls her eyes a little bit at it, some of the things that we do. But the reality is that, the why that we do business is the journey that we take people on, that we're leaving people better than we found them, and then leaving the communities better than we found them. And sorry, um the hardest part I think I find is that when you have such a belief in the people's potential, you can't always, you can set it up and facilitate their growth and show the path and that they can achieve their potential, but can't, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink sometimes. And sometimes when your vision for the future and the vision for the team dynamic and the vision for the people and how they're going to, interact and, be their best selves in your organization, when they don't go along for that ride, like sometimes it is hard. And when you have to part ways with people, which we do, but part of, maintaining culture is making sure you have the right people in the right seats in the bus. And if they're not, then they leave the organization. That hurts. Like it's every time that someone doesn't live up to the vision that you have for them. It's hard. So, I yeah, you have to take those. It's a really humbling experience to be managing people, and it's gratifying, and it feels like a really noble profession in a lot of ways to be managing people. And part of that, because the downside is that you take an emotional toll, and for when things don't go the way that you'd like to see them go as well. So
That emotional toll is sort of a theme right throughout people management or the people-centered management approach, because you do lead with your heart on your sleeves. You prioritize people over process. You bring in empathy, compassion, all those very wonderful, powerful soft skills. How do you manage compassion burnout, empathetic burnout? How do you manage to stay on an even keel right throughout all these challenges?
yeah. Yeah, good question. And I mean, yeah, there's certainly times where it goes in waves where you feel energized or you feel burnt out. But I mean, I guess for me, how I process burnout, now I process stress is like I'm a social creature, and I'm so blessed that I have a support network that is incredible. Between my wife Rosemary is like my absolute, my number one advisor. Like she knows more about what's going on in this business than almost anything. Like I share openly there, and between my father and my our board that we have in place. I'm in some peer groups that you're familiar with as well. And I guess just processing things through socializing them is way that I find to gain perspective and not bottle things up. And I'm very much a person where I want to, it's I guess in relationships, that whole like don't go to sleep angry concept. Like I just don't want to go to sleep stressed or angry or burnt out. I want to get it out in the open and process it and kind of come to peace with these emotions and feelings and come back refreshed. And there's other funny little things that I'll do, and there's kind of ongoing jokes in the organization that yeah, I really kind of believe in your attitude and your mindset kind of shapes your environment. And so sometimes when I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed, I'll put on a watermelon shirt or a really bright colored shirt and come in with like the most energy possible to the organization. And so I have this one shirt that has watermelons all over it that has kind of become a symbol in the organization. And it's like, oh, okay, Liam's bringing the vibe today. So we had actually they held a surprise birthday party for me in the organization here last summer, where I walked into the atrium and had everyone was wearing watermelon shirts. It was like, okay, like it was pretty good. But like if you kind of just bring the positivity and the mindset that moving forward and we're being positive and being optimistic is something that I feel like helps, and it allows you not to just kind of get down in the dumps or too hard on yourself.
That is incredible. I definitely am going to take the story of yours to my EQ workshops, because it's just dialing the mood to where the mood needs to be able to achieve what you need to do. Like you do a temperature dial, and
Yeah.
watermelon shirts is just doesn't go along with the watermelon sugar song.
Maybe you should. I mean, it is a little bit of a metaphor, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like something around like you put this on, it's like your superhero cape, and it's like what? Like today is the day that I'm finding positivity, and today is the day that I'm really leaning into optimism, and yeah, so it is a metaphor, and like it's just funny how kind of symbolically that was just something that I would do for me, but it's people kind of are picking that up. So it's yeah, maybe you'll have to write a book someday on what is your watermelon shirt.
I'm going to hold you to that. I'm so going to hold you to that. What is your watermelon shirt? That is so cool. So in this transition, tell me a little bit, because for the first time when I walked into Fireball's
Hmm.
offices in, I think it was 2018, it was a long time ago. Um, Joe was still in the office, and he
Yep.
introduced me to your organizational chart,
Yep.
which is the inverted triangle. And I mean, I've been preaching the inverted triangle with a CEO at the
Hmm.
bottom of the triangle
Yeah.
since I finished business school a long time ago. And
Yes.
it was the first time I saw it in the hallway in a picture. It's like this,
Yes.
the CEO at the bottom. Where did that come from?
You know what I think? It Yeah, I think it predates me in the organization. It's been like that for a long time, and I think that that's maybe a little bit representative of the leadership example that Joe, my father, has set for me and for the organization. And him and I we're such opposite leaders in so many ways, right? Like you look through the personality profiles, and my personality shape will be this, and his will be opposite. But one of the beautiful things about uh, Joe is like he's always, despite him being the way that he led the organization originally is through just brilliance technically and kind of from an engineering standpoint. But he always saw the value in people and in culture. And I would say even if the areas that he didn't know how to do himself or didn't feel like he was the best suited for building those things, he would bring in those resources. So he would hire the Andreas and the human resources functions far before it would be typical for an organization as small to have a human resource and culture function in the organization. But yeah, like that org chart, like it is symbolic, and it just makes sense too. Like almost that you see the org chart in the other way, and it feels wrong just because that's kind of what we've come to believe is the right way, and it just makes sense, right? Like the whole nature, and I guess we're just speaking metaphors all over the place here, but like just supporting the staff, like the people who are held at the top of that organization, is that's where the work is. Like the reality is, like I don't actually do much work. Like I don't produce documents. I don't, I like my role in this organization is to, find the right people in the organization and make sure that they're well supported and, beat that cultural drum, and then they do the work. Like we've had our technicians, like we've got 40 or 50 people kind of in trades roles. Like they've been deployed in the field doing projects for weeks and weeks in our busiest period ever right now. And like they're the ones that are, putting in the 12 or 14-hour days, turning wrenches away from their families, or the salespeople who are out, developing business to feed the machine, and the accounting team, and like all these other functions that, like with a business, like they are the beating heart of how this business, lives and competes and drives forward in this world. And everything beneath that is supporting those initiatives. So their managers support them, and the directors support the managers, and I support the directors, and the board supports me. And the reality is, like the structure that you have there is trying to just set these people up for success and support them and take care of them. And I think that just is the way that it should be. I don't know another way.
I love that. And it's just so beautiful. There's like a Liam quote that I'm gonna put at the headline. This is like the people are the heartbeat of the business,
Yeah,
and we're supporting the heartbeat.
yeah.
That is so cool. That's great. So this is a great conversation. Thank you. What advice would you give a leader who's aspiring to make the switch from the old boss framework with the CEO at the top to what we now know is the only sustainable organizational structures, when the CEO is at the bottom supporting the people who are supporting the people who are supporting the heartbeat?
Yeah. I'm going to answer that question, but first I'm just going to share a little anecdote. Yesterday, as you mentioned, there's that
Yeah.
gala for that Business in Edmonton Leadership Award, and I was talking to another leader uh, of another organization where we were there, and I was saying how it kind of feels strange to be accepting awards, and I haven't been, publicizing these things very much because, like the basis for getting recognized for awards is based on the work and the results that this business has produced. Well, there's 100 people over the course of years and years of work, and so like I feel uncomfortable at times to be accepting the awards and recognition as though like I'm the hero or savior or anything like that, because I don't feel that is the reality. So kind of sharing that sentiment with another leader, and when she was sharing, she's like, you know what, I think that the successful businesses and successful leaders probably all feel that way to a certain degree. And the boastful leader that they are the God's most gifted child of or like I don't think that that's the model that makes sense and really drives success typically in this world anymore.
No.
And I thought that was there was a lot of wisdom that, boastful leadership versus humble leadership, like one sounds sure better than the other. So I guess to your point on the advice, like certainly like we talked about is, if leaning into vulnerability, and if you don't feel comfortable with that, because not everyone does. There's leaders in our organization today that, that's a conversation that we talk about, where they kind of put up the armor still, and they'll use humor, or they'll use their intelligence to kind of outmaneuver the requirements to kind of let just into that everyone into that gooey squishy inside. But like if I would say lean into the vulnerability, or find the trust and the confidence to be able to get to that stage, and then acknowledge which areas that you're when yeah part of that, acknowledge which areas that you're strong at and which areas you're weak at, and build out the organization and the culture to support you. And I guess the last piece I'd say that has been critical, I'd say, for us and for me and my leadership journey is the communication. um especially in organizations that are spread out over multiple locations and not always in office 100%. That's okay.
We have
um,
to just take a break so that
you can,
Joseph can cut that out. So can you back up a little bit?
yeah,
Thank you.
yes, of course.
She's
And
probably going to phone again. My mom has, and I don't know how to switch it off. Okay, let's hope she doesn't.
okay.
Joseph, cut this out.
Um, yeah, no problem. Yeah, we'll do a little like cue for the audio. Yeah. And so, yeah, I guess the other thing that is something that I'd recommend is just how you communicate. The reality is when you have a staff that is not always centrally located or in the field or in multiple different geographies or just multiple different generations, the communication is really kind of sets the tone, and you can't physically be spending time every day with every person in the organization when you kind of reach scale. And so finding the means of communicating, get those cultural notes out, helping people feel connected is I think really important. Now, the method that I took and that we took kind of at the start of my journey in present was a little bit flavored by the fact that it was in the work from home pandemic environment. But it's something that honestly we've learned some lessons from that I think that has worked well and will continue to work well. Is like I would record weekly videos where I'd just be 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 12 minutes of just kind of speaking to something. And sometimes it's acknowledging success if someone closed a big new sale or if a team finished a big project or if the accounting team did a amazing job on the budget or whatever that might be. Acknowledging success, talking about the new people in the organization, picking a theme on how just on a kind of cultural standpoint, or talking about the world. Like I remember there's moments in time where we're talking about um, the Black Lives Matter initiative and the impact of inclusion in our organization, and reconciliation or whatever the topic might be. But like getting that message out frequently and being top of mind and present with the organization, because the reality is if people, while they watch and listen to what you say, they also watch and listen to what you don't say, and keeping people abreast to your thoughts and the cultural tones removes the ability for them to connect the dots in the ways that you don't want them to connect the dots. And so I'd say that that's just something that's been important to us and we'll continue doing.
That is so valuable. That communication is where it's all at. And talking about everything and sharing your thoughts and reinforcing the culture regularly and keeping that practice alive after COVID is so cool, because
Yeah,
there's 100 people in your staff. You cannot have conversations with every single one of them every single day.
that's right.
Not real, yeah. And then awareness that leaders live in a fishbowl with a microphone or a megaphone. Everything you say and everything you don't say, every facial expression and
Yeah,
every watermelon shirt.
that's right.
It just
Yeah.
blasts a lot of context and value and meaning to the organization. So that's
Yeah.
such a great awareness. So if somebody wants to switch over or just
Mm-hmm.
enforce a bigger focus on being a people-centered leader in the organization, the first step is self-knowledge. Is what I kind of read between the
Yeah.
lines. Do know your
Yeah.
strengths, know your weaknesses, know you're not God's gift to mankind,
That's
and
right.
appreciate that, live with it.
Yeah.
um, Embrace humility and vulnerability,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
talk, communicate,
That's
transparency.
right.
That is, that's
There's a
great.
talent of yours, Marta. You took a 10-minute soapbox that I had and boiled it down to two succinct points. But yeah, absolutely. There's the playbook.
That is so cool. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I don't think specifically. I mean, the reality is that, you know, the story that I'm sharing is only our story, and that's not what was necessarily going to be successful for every organization. So maybe it lends perspectives, and the other piece is we're still learning and we're still figuring it out. Like you can't gather the knowledge and the ability to be a perfect leader, or if that, I don't think that really does exist in reality, but that like you don't get that from school, you don't get that from books. So it's just being the curiosity to keep on learning. And even to yesterday we held a board meeting talking about kind of strategic growth in the business. And there's all these little pieces. I've got notes all over on my register on on things to try and communications that I should be sending out, and how maybe we're not showing up in the right way. And it's a work in progress. And I don't think that it's ever a straight line, right? Like business growth never goes straight. It's always up and down and there. So maybe leadership is kind of a similar way, that you kind of are a slow spiral staircase as you kind of are improving yourself as a leader and building culture in the organization. So that's openness to feedback and criticism, and self-reflection on how you could be improving on a daily basis. So those maybe be some of the other pieces underpinning it all.
So, talking about growing and learning, what are you reading, learning, listening to at the moment? What's
Mm. So I guess the two probably, yeah, the most recent book I read was Tribal Leadership, and that was really I liked that concept. And we actually, I held a town hall a couple of weeks ago, and shared a lot of the learnings and the kind of the thesis around that whole book around developing culture, and how within the larger tribe of our organization we probably have these subcultures and that are different stages of tribes, as far as how they communicate and interact and the language they use, and going from a different culture of the I'm great and you're not, to we're great, to the world is great, and trying to build up the organization to elevate the culture. So like that's that whole thought process I've enjoyed, and I've been trying to think about how to implement and acknowledge and notice those different kind of subcultures within our organization.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's been really interesting. The other one that I guess I've been spending a lot of time and thought around wellness and employee health, and well, just health in general. Like I think that, again, the traditional view is that, you're not supposed to love your job. You're there for a paycheck. You're not looking for purpose there. And that, it's not the employer's duty to be, taking care of, that's outside of work stuff, that you take care of your health and take care of your wellness and take care of your sleep and take care of all of these different things. But the reality is, like, people only have, it's only one person, it's one battery that they're working off of. And if you're draining that battery so quickly that they aren't, they're depleted and can't recharge that, then they're not going to show up the best for you and the organization, for their people in their life, and for themselves. And so trying to understand how we as an organization kind of a role in helping people's health, helping them on their journey to better health. And I think that there's, some of those, I've got a whole other soapbox conversation around, the typical employee benefits, reality, where it's like everyone kind of has the same, copy and paste benefits plan across all the organizations. And the perception is that, well, we have employee benefits, so therefore we take care of people's health. And people will say, well, how do you use your benefits? Like, well, I guess I've got some money allotted to put towards massages. And now there's obviously there's a lot more in the benefits to the group benefits programs on medication and all sorts of different things. But what I think that we're missing as leaders and organizations is like how we don't give our people the tools to improve themselves and to improve their health, and the knowledge and the education, and looking at health more holistically, other than just physical health. Looking at their sense of purpose and spiritual health, looking at their emotional health, looking at their mental health, and looking at kind of the full aspects of the person. And if we can take care of all of those aspects and give them the tools to take care of themselves, they're going to show up better for us in the organization. They're going to show up better for their families at home. That's going to lead to better, happier, more fulfilled, more engaged employees, which is also just good business. So anyways, that's my other area that I've been spending a lot of time in.
We might have to invite you back to talk about that, because employee wellness is where it's at. I mean, I think more than 70% of CEOs and executive teams deal with mental health challenges in the organization post-pandemic. And I mean, it's widely known that mental health challenges is the next pandemic that we've been dealing with. But it's still stigmatized. It's still a thing. And there is still so many organizations that do not understand their role in mental health in organizations. I mean, one of my pet things to talk about every single time I get on a stage is sort of the line from -10 to +10, which is comes from positive psychology. And then in the middle is 0. And for
Yep.
every leader, supervisor, manager needs to understand that your impact on people is never 0. You're either depleting or filling,
Yep.
either destroying or building.
Mm-hmm.
And a people-centered leader is very aware of that dynamic, not only in the interactions, but in what the company offers to employees. If the company's focus is on employee wellness and building what you're building and bringing a super talent like Rosa May into the organization to support that, it's so forward thinking, but so, and as you said, just good business.
And the right thing to do. Like,
And the right thing to
love
do.
it when those things all align. Yeah.
Yeah. It is so cool. We are running out of time, Liam. Thank you very much for being here. You have a quote on your LinkedIn profile. A great vision without people is irrelevant. Tim Collins, and it sounds like it could be Liam Murphy too. Would you leave us with some closing remarks around that, please?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess maybe going back to my statement that I don't actually do that much work here, but the
I
reality is
think that
like
is not accurate. I
maybe I
don't
should
believe
stop
that.
saying that. The reality is that, like I said, like my role is to get the right people on the bus in the right seat and support them and build a culture that they want to be at and fulfill all of those basic needs for the organization, and but to create a vision like that, that whole sense of direction, sense of growth, sense of purpose, like that's this absolutely critically important for people to feel like they're a part of something that is a rocket ship to the moon versus stagnation or decline. But also that they're doing something that has a purpose and a meaning that's kind of greater than the invoices they send out or the nuts they tighten or the whatever the role it is, that they're part of something larger. But the reality is you can have all of the vision and strategy and mission statements in the world without the people surrounding you that are going to help you achieve those, that like they're empty. So like yeah, I our the differentiator, every organization has people. I feel like we got some really good ones and the
You
fact that we have those people in place that helps us see those vision and through those strategies and those growth goals and ambition through, and it's just a grateful lucky place to be in today. Yeah.
That is wonderful. Thank you very much. And that's a wrap. And like all the listeners to remember Liam Murphy's quote, the people are the heartbeat.
That's right.
And without the people, there's no business. So thank you very much, Liam, for your time and for sharing so much valuable information. And for our listeners, love you on the heart of leadership. And we hope that our listeners will take away a lot of your wisdom and insights and start peopling better. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.